I sent you a response to your dire conversation that I hope you read because you need to read it. Maybe it will spark human emotion in you, something that only seems to exist when it comes to your own problems. But everyone else is just a part of your sick agenda. By the way, your pick comment to Danny Jones makes you look like a pure whore, even more to the people who know you. You should be embarrassed by it. If he knew what I knew about you, he'd spit in your face. So would everyone else. I have never in my life been hurt so bad by someone. But why do I even say it? Because you don't care. It doesn't serve your evilness. You couldn't get off your lazy butt to read it, could you? That's the sociopath I know so well. It freaking figures. I don't want your apology. I want you to understand what I think of. I want you to understand how evil I think you are. You are the worst thing that ever happened to me.
So there's this sort of agreement that she's going to come out. Do you know about when you guys reached this agreement that she was going to come out?
It would have been the end of May.
Right. You continued to have this relationship where you were sort of friends where you would call occasionally, right?
Correct.
And the same thing can be said for 2008, correct? You continued to be this sort of sporadic friend, right?
Yeah, sporadic contact, yes.
And in fact, back in 2008, she knew your number and you knew her number, right?
Correct.
And if she needed something, she would call you, right? Well, sir, isn't it true that in May of 2008, you received a telephone call from the defendant, Jodi Arias?
I could have, yes.
Well, isn't it true that during that telephone call, she was asking you for a favor? Do you remember that?
No.
Do you remember that during that favor, she was asking you for gas cans in May of 2008 at the very end so that she could make a trip to Mesa, Arizona? You remember that?
Yes.
On the morning of June 2nd, 2008, between 1 and 3 a.m., Jodi Arias called Travis Alexander 4 times. At 3 a.m., Travis called Jodi twice. At 4:03 a.m., Jodi called Travis for a 5th time, and at 5:39, Jodi went to eat near Wairika. If she had intentions on going to visit Ryan Burns, as she planned during the end of May, this would have been the sensible route to take. 777 miles to West Jordan, Utah. Instead, she drove 60 miles out of the way to rent a car in Redding at 8 o'clock in the morning. Jodi, who had blonde hair at the time, was initially given a red car, but insisted on a white one, saying she didn't want to stand out. Jodi continued to drive another 197 miles out of the way and called Travis for a 6th and 7th time. She stopped in Lodi for McDonald's around 7:30 p.m. and was at Valero at 8:41. Jodi drove another 158 miles out of the way and slept in Monterey, although where is unclear. On June 3rd, 2008, Jodi had breakfast with Daryl Brewer and was given the 2 gas cans she requested the previous week in May. Shortly after 10 a.m., Miss Arias deposited a total of $800 in 2 accounts over 3 separate transactions. At 3:22 p.m., a third gas can is among Jodi's 5 Walmart purchases. She then headed for Pasadena. Between 8 and 9, Jodi called Travis for the 10th and 11th times, but still had not called Ryan Burns. While in Pasadena, Jodi stopped at Arco and made 3 separate gas purchases. At that point, Jodi had driven 715 miles away from Ryan Burns and around 750 miles from her home in Wairika. She could have been here in Utah by then. After calling Travis Alexander 11 times, Jodi finally called Ryan Burns between 9 and 10 p.m. to tell him she was on the way. At that point, Jodi's phone was turned off and wasn't turned back on until she reached here, effectively cutting off all cell phone communication and tracking during the time she was in Arizona. Let's back up and discuss the point of the gas cans. The theory is that Jodi wanted to be off of the grid, so to speak, while she was in Arizona. Having 3 gas cans allowed Jodi to travel in Arizona without having to stop at a gas station. Ryan Burns testified that when Jodi got to Utah, the police stopped her because her license plate was upside down. She probably removed the plate at the same time she gassed up and turned the phone off, right before entering the off-the-grid zone. Jodi Arias claims to have had sex with Travis Alexander on the afternoon of June 4th, 2008, and there are pics. Notice that Jodi's hair has changed from the blonde of June 2nd to brunette with pigtails. The next set of photos begin on June 4th, 2008 at 5:22 p.m. and are the last pictures of Travis Alexander's young life. He seems unaware that Arias is taking pictures until 5:27 p.m. The last facial picture taken at 5:29, he looks terrified. There's a picture of Travis's lower body at 5:30, then one of the ceiling at 5:31, presumably when the camera was dropped, and a picture at 5:32 of a blood-drained Travis, seemingly deceased. 62 seconds elapsed between the dropping of the camera and Travis being killed. Over the next 62 seconds, according to Jodi, she was cussed at and slammed by Travis, hit her head, had the wind knocked out of her, rolled, ran down the hallway. She remembers the gun, opens and shuts the door, runs into the corner, steps up on the shelf, grabs the gun, runs into the bathroom, turns around, points the gun. Travis lunges at her like a linebacker. She fires the gun, grabbed by Travis, then comes the fog. Now, she has to find the knife at this point. So let's take 5 seconds to do that, even though it would definitely take longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now start stabbing. Stab 1, stab 2, stab 3, stab 4, stab 5, stab 6, 7, stab 8. I don't even have enough time to say everything that needs to be said before this is what takes place. Let's re-examine Miss Arias' version of events. She dropped the camera, but nowhere in her story is there mention of her or Travis going to check the camera. If you've dropped the camera, your first course of action would be to see if it's still working. The picture at 5:32 lets us know nothing was wrong with the camera. Why would Travis want to kill Jodi over a properly working camera? The next point that deserves attention is her claim that Travis slammed her. She said she hit her head and had the wind knocked out of her. If you've had the wind knocked out of you, the only thing you can do for 3 to 5 minutes is attempt to breathe. At this point, Travis, the former high school wrestler, had the full advantage. Jodi was disoriented, trying to breathe, and he was standing over her. If he had intentions on harming Miss Arias, it's highly doubtful he would have relinquished such an advantage. If Miss Arias turns left and goes down the stairs, she could have escaped outside and left the naked Travis behind. Instead, she chose to go right and grab the gun she remembered Travis supposedly had. Miss Arias testified that Travis assured her the gun was not loaded. Why run to get an unloaded gun? The closet doesn't even appear to have been entered. There are no signs of any disturbances. Miss Arias goes to grab the unloaded gun off the shelf and miraculously doesn't flip or break the shelf and leaves everything in perfect order. She gave at least 2 different versions of the closet story on the stand and neither were plausible. Giving Miss Arias full benefit of the doubt, by her own words, she would have been caught here at best. Next, Jodi runs into the bathroom and turns around. The picture on the left is what Travis Alexander was looking at. Lowering his head and diving into that like a linebacker would be suicide, begging for a bullet in the head. Again, not very likely. Take a close look at the scenario according to Miss Arias. She is in the exact same position as when she was slammed, only now all of the advantages belong to her. Travis is on the ground with the bullet in his head. If she could get to a gun after hitting her head and having the wind knocked out of her with Travis standing over her, she could easily have escaped with Travis being on the ground and having a bullet in his head. As we enter the fog, Miss Arias is completely unharmed with the tactical advantage, and Mr. Alexander is naked with the bullet in his head. Considering that Miss Arias had a distinct advantage when the fog rolled in, look at the injuries Mr. Alexander sustained. 9 stabs in the back, defensive wounds to his hands. If you were wondering, yes, that is a .25 caliber shell casing, and your memory does not fail you. It was a fully loaded .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun that was stolen from Jodi Arias' grandfather. A .25 was stolen while bullets and a gun collection were left untouched. Although we could discuss how Jodi cleaned the crime scene, got rid of the gun, and deleted photos among other actions, let's listen to the words of Miss Arias herself. This is her calling a deceased Travis Alexander, knowing that she had killed him 5 hours prior.
Midnight. Anyway, right about the time you're starting to gear up. I know Leslie called you, so I already talked to her, so you can call her back if you want, but it's not necessary. My phone died, so I wasn't getting back to anybody. And what else? Oh, and I drove 100 miles in the wrong direction. Over 100 miles, thank you very much. So yeah, remember New Mexico? It was a lot like that. Only you weren't here to prevent me from going into the 3 digits. So fun. Tell you all about that later. Also, we were talking about, when we were talking about your upcoming travels my way, I was looking at the May calendar, so I'm all confused. But Heather and I are going to see Othello on July 1st, and we would love for you to accompany us. I don't know when Team Freedom's event is, though, but, it's on the list, so we could do Shakespeare, Crater Lake, and the coast. So if you can make it. If not, we'll just do the coast in Crater Lake. But let me know, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
End of message. To delete this message, press 7. To save it in the archives, press 9.
Finally, we have to focus on the first story told by Miss Arias. She said that she wasn't in Arizona. Had she killed Travis in self-defense, there would be no reason for her to believe she could successfully lie concerning her whereabouts. The reason she was confident in claiming that she wasn't in Arizona is because she went through a lot of trouble to make sure that's how it appeared. Her claim to Detective Flores that she was never in Arizona matches her actions prior to arriving at the home of Mr. Alexander and her actions immediately following the killing.
About that trip.
I honestly got lost. It's bad timing.
Were you at Travis's house on Wednesday?
Absolutely not. I was nowhere near Mesa. I was nowhere near Phoenix. I wasn't even close to him.
What if I could show you proof you were there? Will that change your mind?
I wasn't there.